Welcome to PhD with Women on IT Hack the Future. My name is Beata Young, and today's PhD, Positivity Hacks Delivered, will be by our guest, Rebecca Murray. Courage is contagious is the topic of today's discussion. Episode 115 starts here. Let me remind you, this is a grassroots community that focuses on women on IT, an inclusive forum of women in technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is my motto. And empathy is critical when you want to have courage. First of all, let me just mention things that's been happening in our world. First, there's things first. Angela Thurman, thank you so much for inspiring us and encouraging us to bring these awesome guests like today's guest. And an exciting news for the manufacturing industry because Angela, our former PhD guest and principal managing director of Thurman Co., is launching her 4-course series at MNI University this October. You can register in the link added by our team. Finally, let me mention our lovely guest, Chris Hood, former PhD, former Google worker. He has been our guest just last year. He's innovator, digital strategist, and for successfully published his latest book, Customer Transformation. You can get a copy of his book to gain insights into enhancing the customer experience, offering a valuable roadmap to sustained business success. Now let's go back to our topic. Courage is contagious. In a world where doubt often clouds our path, remember this. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the determination to face it head on. Our guest Rebecca Murray's inspiring journey reminds us that within every one of us lies a story waiting to be told, a story waiting to be heard. It is in embracing our truth, even the painful ones, that we discover our inner strength and resilience. Rebecca is a dynamic Northwest edutainer. Rebecca, I hope you're going to explain what that means. She's known for her high energy virtual and live training sessions designed to empower individuals and teams to become confident, creative, and compelling leaders. Your story has the power to heal, to inspire, and to connect with others. We're going to learn how to do it. And join us in this conversation. Have the courage to ask questions and talk to us, because we want you to succeed, and there is no success without courage. Rebecca, where are you joining us from? Tell us, what's your location?
Yes, the beautiful town of Mount Vernon, Washington, which is about 50 miles north of Seattle, 50 miles south of the Canadian border. So right in Northwest Washington, next to the water here, the Puget Sound.
And it looks like you've got a lovely weather, just like me. You mentioned we are wearing matching outfits. Absolutely. That must be the universe telling us something. And universe is bringing us to this courageous place of having this conversation and not being afraid of asking difficult questions about how to be courageous. So what's your story, Rebecca? How did you become courageous? Were you always born this way?
Well, it's interesting because I have always thought of myself as a very tall person. And I think that is because I was the same height that I am now, 5'3" tall, in the 5th grade. So I haven't basically grown since the 5th grade. But I remember in the 5th grade feeling very tall, and all my friends were much shorter than me. So, for example, in group pictures, they would always want to put me in the back as a tall person, so I would crouch down so I could be with my friends. So in my mind, I've always felt tall, which has given me a lot of confidence. And it's made me think, are people just born with confidence? And how does confidence work? I've poured years of my life into studying confidence. It's largely what I talk about and how I work with people to help them bring out their confident selves when communicating with others.
Right, I do remember that moment when pictures were taken, group photos at school. I was always dreading because I was always told to be behind, and I was the second tallest girl in the class. And that made me actually feel invisible almost. And
Wow.
these moments are very humble. And yes, for some strange reason, I started this series to bring the optimism, bring the courage, but also bring the positivity, which is also contagious. So we are talking about courage today. Courage is contagious. When a brave man takes a stand, the spines of others are often stiffened, Billy Graham says. So that moment for you, was there a drop mic moment, or was it like a step-by-step realization?
Well, sort of on and off throughout my life, throughout the day, throughout the week. Confidence is something that goes up and down. And the link to courage is really, I think, where the magic is. And as you've already shared, that, that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willing to step through it. And the feeling of courage in that moment of being courageous is not a pleasant feeling usually. It's a feeling of anxiety because all of our bodily functions are activated in that moment. Our brain is very active. But I think it's the afterglow of doing something courageous after, when we can look back, that's when confidence can set in, when we can look at ourselves, clap for ourselves, give ourselves a pat on the back, be our own number one fan, and say, look at me, I just did that courageous thing. And now we feel more confidence and we can take that forward with us.
I believe that for some people, there is no cure for really being courageous. So we encourage whoever faces the fear to definitely speak to the psychologist, whatever past you might have. Some things are not cured, just
Yes.
just saying be courageous. There is no
Yes.
no other way.
Absolutely. Yes.
So yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say about the word encouragement. So for people who, with all of us who struggle at times with our courage, being courageous, doing the courageous thing, it takes somebody encouraging us. And it's interesting that word, okay, I'll give you a little quiz. The two letters EN on the front of the word encourage, what do you think those two little letters mean? Like, what do they represent? EN.
Well, I have no idea. I'm a foreigner, just speaking English and fake it till you make it. So,
okay, I'll tell you then. I'll tell you. It is to give. So the word courage comes from heart, courage. That's a French word, and then the EN on the front of courage, to encourage someone, means to give your courage to them. And we can all think of those moments that we were the encourager, or when we look to someone else for encouragement. And it's that give and flow, ebb and flow, where we are vulnerable enough in that moment to receive encouragement, ask for encouragement. And then once we're the one with the confidence, the gift of giving encouragement. So it's a two-way street.
So how to ask for encouragement?
Yes.
Is there a golden rule?
I think if going back to your word empathy, if we are in touch with other people, listening, sort of reading with our eyes, sort of understanding where they're at, we can sense when someone is in need of encouragement, and then approach them, listen to them, and be there for them. I just took up tap dancing this year at the age of 62. And so I went to my first, it's what's called clogging. So you have tap shoes, but you're learning these dances. It's very hard. It's hard on the brain. And for somebody who isn't used to it, there's a lot to learn. So I went to my first 2-day clogging clinic. Now I'm the beginner in this huge room of people who definitely look like they know what they're doing. They've been doing it for years. And I had two choices. I could leave because I felt a little out of my element. I could stand in the back so no one could see me and how bad I was, or I could be courageous and go to the very front of the room to be next to the teacher who was on the stage and not worry about what other people thought of me, because really they're not looking at my feet anyway. They're thinking about themselves, which is what most of us do. And that's what I did. I said, now what would I tell someone else in this situation? I wouldn't tell them to hide in the back. I would tell them to go in the front. And you know what happened when I went there is people who had more experience flanked me. They came on either side of me and helped me because they could see that I was, struggling from time to time. And they were encouraging me. So that's what I mean. It's a really great example of that, to use your courage and then to accept encouragement from others.
That's a beautiful story. Thank you, Rebecca. However, not world does not revolve around us, as you said. It's not a one-party game, and sometimes people will not agree with us, with our opinion, or with whatever we may think about. I don't know. For example, current affairs. How to tackle that?
Yeah, I just feel like everyone's entitled to their opinion, and their opinion of me is none of my business, really. I don't know if you've ever heard that saying. Your opinion of me is none of my business. Now, I would never say that to someone, but when someone shared that phrase with me, to think in my mind, your opinion of me is really none of my business, because you're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine, and that's fine. And just to be comfortable with different opinions. I think confidence has a lot to do with that. Like, I'm making a choice. This feels right for me. And I don't even have to keep talking after that.
Absolutely. Well, there is also a very difficult time now. I have a sense of you're not entitled to your own opinion if it's not in unison with whatever the current perception is. So just recently I was gutted by the fact that Roisin Murphy mentioned the fact that it's not good for children to have some medicine to alter their sexuality at a very young age when they are not still emotionally ready to decide whatever their sexuality is. So I'm wondering, is it good time to be courageous to voice your own opinion, or is it better to, keep it to yourself?
So, are you talking about with children specifically, using that as an example, or just sort of in general?
I'm speaking about in general because I've seen
Yeah.
a lot of hate online, for example, a lot of very aggressive platforms you choose
Mm-hmm.
when some people are not voicing what is the popular, the most common opinion.
Oh, I see. Yes, yes. Well, I will pick and choose my battles. There, very often I'll think, okay, this person that I'm listening to wants to engage in basically a verbal altercation, let's say. they're upset about something and they're coming at you. And very often at that time, I want to be just a good listener. I may choose not even to voice my opinion because I feel like, hey, they're not going to hear it anyway. They've already made up their mind. However, if I'm speaking to somebody who I feel is open-minded, then I absolutely, and I think there's value in sharing my opinion. I will wait in the conversation for a good time to do that and not try to talk over somebody. It's that going back to courage and confidence. So much of this is about composure. Poise, I love that word poise. Poise is composure and confidence. So when you can have poise, when you can have composure in a situation where people are starting to get riled up, you're the one who looks like you're the role model, you're the leader in that situation. And just having self-control and peace inside really is the key to happiness, truly. Confidence, I think, when we have internal confidence, it's a happy feeling. It's a happy feeling, peaceful feeling. Unlike courage in the moment is more of an anxiety ridden feeling, but worth it to get to the peaceful feeling. Does that make any sense?
It does. Let's extrapolate on that. It's
Okay.
fascinating because I always thought of courage as a leader. You cannot be hiding from being exposed. You have to take the step in and into the office and be that contagious person, contagious leader that empowers others,
Yes.
not necessarily by managing, but managing up rather than steering or maneuvering between politicking.
Yes. Encouraging people to use their courage to build their confidence, because that's the only way to do it. There is only one way to get to the confidence zone, and that is through using your courage. That's the equation. It starts with courage, which, fear and doubt are connected to that. That's sort of what's fueling the feeling of anxiety, like, well, I'm about to dive off a diving board. I've never done that before. And then as soon as we do it, now we have some knowledge and experience. And with that knowledge and experience, we can move forward and feel confident. And I think that's the part for a lot of women, especially, is they feel like, oh no, I didn't do it good enough. It wasn't perfect enough. Yes, I dove off the diving board, but it wasn't like a perfect 10.0 dive. So I'm going to go back here to the anxiety place instead of moving forward to revel in the confident place.
Well, when we talk about anxiety and composure, these are the polar opposite. So how to keep your composure when you have that anxiety about speaking up and raising your voice and speaking, what is on your mind, what may not get you to being popular among the crowd.
Yes. And, choosing your words, the only way to do this well and to get better at it is to practice. So joining an organization like Toastmasters, for example, where you get to practice your composure and choosing your words, not rambling on, but saying what needs to be said in a calm, respectful way, using as few words as possible. Using as few words as possible and feeling as neutral as possible, so that you can also hear other people, because it's really hard to listen when you're filled with anxiety.
Well, I have to say that I had a moment of anxiety when I attended a speech that was actually a panel devoted to women, because there is only once a year we can celebrate women, and that's 8th of March. So one organization decided to put a panel of esteemed speakers, and one of them was a male who said women need to be trained and women need to be courageous, and all these things that really made my blood boil, and I had to speak up. I had to say the things that were really um, upsetting, because this is supposed to be a panel empowering women, and we hear that women need to be trained like monkeys to be worthy of being on the board of directors. So that's really tricky to keep that composure. However, as you said, and we talked about it before coming here, Rebecca, and I'll shut up after I say what I wanted to say. With training, I like to use this analogy of a child. When the child is born, it learns a lot of things, including it starts to walk. And the first couple of walks are, a disaster. They bash their heads, their knees, everything goes wrong, but they never give up. So
Yeah.
why is that so many of us lose that courage of walking the talk, or speaking the truth to power? Why do you believe that's the case with so many of females especially?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with once we enter school and we start becoming more self-aware and insecure, comparing ourselves to others is, I think, the biggest the fastest way to feel insecure is comparing ourselves to others. I know that's when I had my I would say I was very insecure when I reached puberty, 13, 14, 15, feeling ugly, always comparing myself with the pretty girls, the cheerleaders, all that sort of stuff. And so I think personally, I think that's where it starts, although it can start a lot earlier depending on who is raising you. So if you're that child, and very few parents would say, to a toddler, get up, after they've fallen down, they're going to be like, come on, you can do it, you can do it. But many parents, depending on how they were raised, once the kid starts thinking for themselves and wanting to do things on their own and becoming more independent, may have a parent that doesn't encourage them, is constantly criticizing them. And so they move forward in life with those things. And now you add school and others and the spotlight effect. Everybody's looking at me. Everybody's thinking about me. Everybody's talking bad about me. All these crazy lies that float around in our head. And then we carry that with us through adulthood. And so we're still dealing with it when we're 60.
Absolutely. Now we have Olga Vazina saying, beautiful studio, Beata, lovely designer location. Thank you so much, Olga. I hope we'll have a question from you and a couple of listeners. I can see some viewers just watching and listening to our courageous talk, and giving some actionable points. So, speaking about actionable points, Rebecca, what would be what are the benefits of being courageous? Let's start with that.
Yeah, well, seeing as courage is really, in my mind, the precursor to confidence. And if you love that feeling of confidence, which I know we all do, even when you say the word confidence, it's a happy word, smile on your face. How can I get more of that? The only way to get more of that is to use courage to start it off. So I have a one-woman show. It's called The Confidence Equation. And it centers around the story of Maria and the Sound of Music. Are you familiar with The Sound of Music?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So you know that when in the very beginning, she gets kicked out of the abbey, right? She loses her dream of being a nun, and she's sent off to the Von Trapp home to be a nanny to 7 children, this widower, Captain Von Trapp. She has no idea how her life is going to unfold. She's never done that before. But she tries to give herself a pep talk by singing that song. Do you remember that song that she sings?
Oh, absolutely. And the
Okay, what is it?
hills and the
Yes, yes. So she starts singing that song, confidence, and I have confidence in me. I have confidence in confidence alone, but you can see I have confidence in me. And so I think, okay, what does that mean when she says, I have confidence in confidence alone? That's an interesting line, isn't it? I have confidence in confidence alone. To me, I think that says, I have confidence in my ability to learn, which takes trying, which takes courage to try. So it's all sort of bundled into that one beautiful song. Now she gets to the von Trapp home. Remember when she is singing down the street with her carpet bag and her guitar in hand, beautiful singing, and then she gets to the gate and it stops her in her tracks. And all you can hear in that moment, the music stops. There's hardly a sound except for her breathing. And they pan in on her face, and she is fearful. She's filled with doubt. So I think about that, being at Maria's gate in our times of doubt, and she opens the gate for herself, right? She opens the gate for herself. So that's what courage is opening the gate for yourself and being willing to step through. Now, if I were at that gate, I could use encouragement. If somebody were frozen and they say, no, I can't do it, then I'm going to be at the gate with them. I'm going to open it for them, but they have to step through on their own, and I'll be there encouraging them to do so. So that is how I think about courage, encouragement, and that leading to confidence, which is that happy, wonderful feeling we all crave.
Wonderful feeling of confidence. And confidentially singing today, Rebecca is giving us hints and tips. We have a question from Mary. So, is courage something that can be acquired and cultivated, or is it an innate characteristic?
Oh, yes, this is such a great question. Acquired and cultivated. Absolutely. And here's how I think about that. What happens when you have a great idea? Let's say you have a wonderful idea, it floats into your head, and you're like, oh, yes, I want to do this thing. The next thing that happens usually, or somewhere close to that idea, comes a doubtful thought. Oh, yeah, but that sounds like it's hard to do. Oh, yeah, but somebody's probably already done it. Oh, you probably don't have time. It's probably not going to work out well. All this doubt. Now, if you could harness the power of doubt, because we all have an unlimited supply of that, thanks to our old brain, our caveman or cavewoman brain that is trying to keep us safe all the time, right? So we know that we have fuel aplenty when it comes to doubt. So why not then, when we have that great idea and we know we need to use our courage, we start seeing doubt differently. If we saw doubt as a trigger to move forward, something to fuel our courage, then we know we can use that to take a step forward at the gate, gain knowledge and experience, regardless of the outcome. We do something courageous. We pat ourselves on the back for doing the courageous thing, again, regardless of outcome. And that's when we can step into confidence. So it's this trigger when we feel the negative feelings to look at them as like, ooh, thank you. I'm going to use that energy to stand at Maria's gate, open it, and step forward. So that's where I think the acquired and cultivated is looking at doubt differently, looking at it as a friend or a motivator, and using that energy forward for yourself.
Well, it's really inspiring to talk about fear as this really awful component in our life because it drains our energy, Whereas I believe that courage and confidence is actually boosting our energy.
Yeah.
So why it really is interesting why we still prefer to stay in our comfort zone, or however you want to call it, in that before that door, not even trying to open it, is really mind-boggling. But
Yes,
for you,
right.
it's maybe much easier, or is it easier because you're creative? So in the creative industry, you tinker with things all the time, and you have to try new things to really stand out.
Yes, well, and it is like you said, it really is a skill. Courage is a skill. Confidence is a skill. Just like anything else, you can learn it. You learn it by doing it. That is the only way. And so thinking of it more as a skill, something to learn, I think takes some of the mystery out of it as well. When you think, okay, if I wanted to learn to dance, then I would find a coach, I would find a teacher, I would go to classes. If I want to learn to sing, if I want to learn to use a piece of software, same thing. If I want to be uh, confident in something, then I need to use my skill of courage. And so just doing it over and over, looking at that fear as something as to use and leverage for yourself to move to that happy place. It's just a simple mind trick, I think. Instead of looking at it as a stop, you look at it as a go.
Mm. Well, we have additional comment from Mary. She's just mentioning that she's asking for a friend. I'm just curious. Hi, Rebecca. Doesn't matter, Mary. Just go with the flow. Ask whatever question you may have. We can learn it by doing it. Thank you, Rebecca. That's absolutely true. Now we have IPOV in Patrick's opinion. That would be my private husband. He's saying, he's adding to your comment, what you think of me is none of my business. The very words I live by. Great point, Rebecca Murray. How do you embody courage so it becomes a reflex action?
Oh, I love that. I love that question too. Going back to the dancing and my struggle with learning all of these steps, the teachers and the people who encourage me, who've been doing this for longer, all say it's muscle memory, Rebecca. It's muscle memory. You can only get to that point of doing it without making mistakes and becoming frozen, is by doing it over and over and over again. And so when we don't shy away from opportunities, say yes to them instead, even though the doubt starts flooding in and we feel like, okay, here's another opportunity for me to grow my skill of courage. That's exactly what it takes. It's like going back to your example of the baby stepping forward, is and to treat ourselves with kindness as we do move forward, because we will fall down. We will fall down. A couple of years ago, I decided to try stand-up comedy, and I bombed. I mean, in front of 350 people, I bombed, and I got a few laughs, okay, but most of it was just sort of groans and maybe a heckler in the back. Actually, I wasn't sure if it was a heckler or somebody just calling for more hummus. But but anyway, I could have chosen to feel like a failure, and it was definitely uncomfortable. But here's what I thought of. I exercised my courage. I exercised my courage by making the decision to take a class, by working hard on this 5-minute set, by standing in front of 350 people, regardless of the outcome, which wasn't optimal. I used my courage, and I can applaud myself for that. And I did. I applauded myself for that. So for us to think of it that way, it is looking for those opportunities to practice our courage, and regardless of the outcome, to applaud ourselves for doing so.
we coming to applauding ourselves, I'm wondering what are the actions to really empower ourselves? Would you reward yourself with, I don't know, some sweet stuff or buying yourself a handbag after you spoke at a big event? What are the ways to motivate us further, not just make it one off thing?
Yeah, I think those are fantastic ideas. Whatever it is that makes you feel good, like your little reward, you know. I love that idea of and maybe even having that in mind beforehand, you know, regardless of the outcome. Like I love to go to thrift stores. That's where I got this. That's where I got this. Um, Regardless of the outcome, here's what I'm going to do for me. I'm going to go within the next 48 hours to my favorite thrift store and allow myself to buy something wonderful. That's a fabulous idea.
There you go. Two thrift store addicts speaking the power, truth to power today, talking about courage, about confidence, and how to build that muscle of speaking up. Because without speaking up, nothing changes. If nobody speaks up, everything stays the same. And also, as well, we have a couple of quotations. Ariana Huffington says a fearless woman is not one who doesn't have fears. It's one who acts in spite of her fears.
Mm.
So, what are the fears of Rebecca? Are there any?
Oh, I have fears all the time. I mean, all the time. And I think just embracing the brain, because it's, you know, the brain that comes up with all of these wonderful fears, to say, to be able to look at them differently and ask myself, is this truth? Is this fear truthful? And most of the time, the answer is going to be no. It's a figment of my very active brain. And so I don't look at fearful thoughts. I sort of have an objective view of them now because I realize how the brain loves to fool us out of doing scary things to keep us safe. So I sort of have fun with my brain now. You know, years ago I was ruled by it. I let those thoughts control me. But I think something happened in me once I started approaching the age of 60. I just like, you know what? I have 30 years left if I'm lucky. So guess what? I'm leaving at the door. I'm leaving shame. I'm leaving guilt, obligation, all of those things, negative things. I look at fear as an indicator. I do feel it. I do feel it. I live with it like every other human being. I've trained my brain to see it a little differently. And like I'm taking up pickleball too. That's a scary thing. Anytime you take up a new sport after not doing sports since high school, it is constantly scaring me, but I love it. I love the opportunity to use my courage. And I think for all of us, if we again look for those opportunities and said yes to them, it would become more fun to use our courage.
Mm. It would be more fun to use our courage, tackle the fear, and definitely one of the biggest fear we had, and we talked about it in the very first episode of PhD, Positivity Hacks Delivered, how to tackle the biggest virus, fear 2020. That happened after the one of the pandemic, the outcome was happening, which was the fear of making contact, having connection. So, what's the power of encouragement to you, Rebecca? You talked about the thing that you can find some people who encourage you, who are your supporters. What would be your approach to how to bring your cheerleaders, how to make that special bond with other females or males as well, because we are not just supported by females, we are supported by everyone. We want your support. Um, how to build that community around you to really empower you to go to new fearless you.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. This morning, I received a text from a woman I haven't seen in a long time, and she said, "I'm just so proud of myself. I wanted you to know." And in that, she sent me a short video and a picture of herself completing a marathon. So I think part of the encouragement thing is to share these great accomplishments that we have with others that we care about, so that they can, like I did with her, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing, you're incredible." And I can give that extra bit of affirmation and encouragement. So not being afraid to share our accomplishments and things that we're proud of when we've stepped into courage and we're heading toward confidence with others. And then always, and also looking for those things, because some people are very they're not going to share, but we observe it. And when we observe it, then we can go to them and say, what you just did really inspired me. It really encouraged me, because I saw you do something that makes me anxious. Like, now I have some courage to do that too. So thank you. And I think just sharing those things and looking for those opportunities is a way to build that community.
I'm sorry about that. I got myself into mute. It's not that I was fearing of speaking up tonight. I was just encouraging everyone to find that posture that you can really thrive and surround yourself with great supporters.
Yes.
Olga Vasina is asking another question. Great show once again, ladies. Those glasses, Rebecca. How do we embed courage instinctively without being reckless?
Without being reckless. Yeah, I guess you look at these people who do these extreme sports, and I think, yeah, that takes courage, but in my mind, that's reckless, because you could die, right? You could die. And and so there's that line that we don't want to cross. And for me, it's interesting to watch those people and think about what their brain must be like, because I guarantee you it's very different than mine, at least, because I don't want to die before my time. How do you embed courage instinctively? I think that goes back to that last question we had about making it a habit, starting a courage habit. And if you think of this as any habit that you want to grow, right? Like, I'll just ask you, Beata, what habit are you working on instilling for yourself right now? What habit is that?
Well, a habit of waking up every day, because it's somewhat tricky, I have to say, because I'm dealing with the fear of missing my mom. She's
Oh, yes.
very ill at the moment. And I have to say that fear of dealing with new circumstances, with dealing with unknown, because sometimes she's getting better, but then the next day she's ill again. I mean, she's not talking, not communicating. So that's my biggest obstacle right now, Rebecca.
Yeah. So when you think, okay, so waking up with at a certain time or with a certain mindset, is that the habit?
Yes, with the mindset everything will be okay.
Right.
It's kind of difficult because the fear of unknown is overpowering me. So sometimes I even find it difficult to call the home that she's staying at the moment, because she's no longer walking. So it really went very fast, because just in April she was still walking, then a couple of visits to hospitals, and so it's really difficult. And as I said, sometimes if you need psychologists, don't wait, and you get any help you can get, whether it's for pharmacology, whether
Mhm.
it's psychiatrist, psychology, therapy. So all these things are very critical to have a healthy mind, because the fear of uncertainty is really overpowering. So it sounds a bit ridiculous. I mean, it sounds like I'm in a constant depression. It's not the case, Rebecca. Do not worry. I'm still waking up, and actually, these live streams got me a boost of positivity. Made me grounded again, because for 1 month in August we had a lovely time off. Our positivity hacks delivered, so now it keeps me in line that I need to do that. So I'm back to my routine, which is very helpful. Rebecca, let's go into what you would like to share with us. What is your way of dealing?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking that last question we had from Olga, and I'm sure that if we were sitting around in circle right now, we could all share ideas about how to make courage that go-to habit that we were talking about. And I was just thinking of some of these ideas. Some of us are more visual and we need a picture. So maybe finding a picture of you. In my workshops, I like to have people think about the very first time in their life they can remember the feeling of courage, doing something courageous. And it can be a little thing. It could be something when you were 5 years old, but that very first, and maybe getting a picture of you at that age and putting it right in front of you. Maybe there's somebody that inspires you through their daily courage. I have a friend with cerebral palsy. His name is David, and he's lived his entire life in a wheelchair. And I know how much courage it takes him and his mother every single day to get him out of bed, in the chair, dressed. He goes to work. He lives where he can drive his wheelchair to work. I know how much courage he uses every single day. So David is an inspiration. Maybe there's a quote, thinking back in your life to things that you have done, starting a courage journal and thinking about those things and writing them down. And again, patting yourself on the back for being courageous. So having those things around you, maybe making a courage log, that every time you do something courageous, you have that doubt. And then you say to yourself, you know what? I know what that is. That is a trigger to be courageous. And then you do that thing and you write it down and you pat yourself on the back and clap for yourself. That's how you make it a habit. That's how you do it.
It's also about celebrating yourself, as you said, pat on the shoulder. It's very important. The motivation of, I'm going to go to a thrift store once I tackle that fear. However, there is a fear of change, because we know that change is inevitable. Nothing is constant. We have to embrace change. And that was a big thing for me when I had to travel all the way from Turks and Caicos to back to Poland to look after my mom. And as her health was declining, the fear of uncertainty was very empowering. It's still very difficult to deal with. Is there a formula for you, Rebecca, how to deal with the fear of change?
I think it's the same as this confidence equation, which is D, starts with the letter D, D meaning doubt. Doubt that it ignites us or is our indicator to use courage. So that's C, which is equal to or leads us to K plus E, which is knowledge and experience, which then leads us to confidence. So when we are dealing with change, which can be exciting or terrifying, right? Either way, it gets our brain, gets our brain going. Either way, I think of my dogs. Like dogs definitely don't like change. They like the same routine every day. And that's why going to the vet for many dogs is, I used to be a dog trainer for 12 years, is a terrifying thing, partly because it's a change to their routine. So we're not that unlike dogs in terms of liking things to be the same unless it brings us something better. And we don't always know if change is going to bring us something better. So all we can do is trust that we will stay within ourselves and deal with it with composure and poise. Talk to ourselves in the right way, and encourage others along the way too, because change is hard for everyone.
Talk to ourselves in the right way. So does it mean in a positive way to reinforce that positivity? And since we are talking about positivity hacks delivered, we are honing on to coming back to the end. I mean, we have a final question we're gonna mention here, Olga Vasina. The one surprising thing today is that your stand-up career bombed. You have mega talent, Rebecca. Thanks for sharing brilliant with brilliant Beata today. Excellent show as always. Well, thank you very much, Olga, for your comment. I hope you're gonna be brilliant. I hope you're gonna have courage to change and your behavior to stay curious, stay courageous. And Rebecca, speaking of your career, you mentioned so many things. You've been in entertaining. You've been an entertainer. You've been a trainer. So what's that all about? Is it
That's why
constant change?
I can't think of a single word, and so that's why I've settled on the word edutainer, which is an educator or trainer along with an entertainer. I just, learning happens more easily and is sticky, when it's fun, when everybody's having fun and participating. And that's part of an edutainer, is to make room for others to participate and have fun. And that's how we can learn best.
Absolutely. Have fun, educate, as well as share and empower your community. So, speaking of community and who built you, I am wondering, what is the number one book you wish you read before you started your career, Rebecca?
Well, one that I've read a few times that just came out this year is called Speak. Oh boy. Oh my gosh. Do you have it written? I shared it with you. It's a book by Jim Vanderhey. Oh, Smart Brevity.
Yes.
And it is
How
about
to say more with less.
Yes, how to say more with less. So having the courage to stop talking. They talk about that. Courage is to stop talking. It does take courage to stop talking. I could keep are you listening? Probably not. But the courage to stop writing, stop talking, after you said what you meant, to be clear on what you mean, and then stop talking so someone else can respond. I think it takes a lot of courage to do that.
Absolutely. Whether it's social media, whether it's our live stream, you have to let others speak and listen to them. We talked about the fact that one of the very important traits for any female who wants to make a career in technology or anywhere to become a leader is communication skills. You've got excellent communication skills. Are there any other traits that you recognize as beneficial for a female to become a leader?
Well, there was a lot wrapped up in communication skills. So I would say that it takes courage and confidence to become a good communicator, because you need to practice a lot, receive feedback to get better. Also, you need to be an excellent listener. Listen more than you speak. And that is part of communication as well. Speak briefly, listen deeply, communicate, connect with others, have that empathy that you mentioned at the very beginning of the show. I think those are the power skills that we as women need to focus on and hone, and help other women with those skills as well.
Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the little voice at the end of the day that says, I'll try again tomorrow, Marianne Rothmacher says. Now, what's your favorite life lesson quote, and can you share the story?
Yeah, I think of I don't know if have you ever seen this graphic where there's a little kitten looking in a mirror, and in the mirror, the kitten sees a big lion. Have you seen that graphic?
Oh, yes. Yes, I
Yes,
have.
okay. So I think about, when we talk about courage and confidence specifically, is sort of this invisible thing inside of us. It's inside all of us, the ability and that yearning to feel confident. When it starts showing on the outside where others can see it through your powerful presence, that's when I say when the invisible becomes visible, the impossible becomes possible. When the invisible becomes visible, that meaning that confidence, the impossible becomes possible. And I don't know if I made up that quote. Probably somebody famous said it way back when. I have no idea. I don't think anything's ever really, truly original, because brains have been on this planet for a very, very long time. But that's one of my favorite quotes.
Absolutely. When the invisible becomes visible, that's one thing that we encourage you to make sure that your courage is visible. And as a lover of cats, I can definitely confirm that the courage of my cat, who managed to overrule and overpower two dogs, is quite amazing. Now, back to our lovely question that we started when the pandemic was in place and we had lockdown. And let's imagine we can travel to any location in the world and invite and have a private breakfast with anybody in the world. Who would you like to have as your guest, and where would you invite them to?
And could I travel back in time in this?
Why not? Go for
Okay.
it.
All right. Well, Benjamin Franklin, who was an incredible inventor, said, and I have his quote up here on my wall, if you get people to laugh, you're halfway to getting them to agree with you. And I love that quote. Of course, he had many others. But I would love to travel back into that era and meet with him, have tea with him, and some of the leaders that he hung around, and just sort of see what it was like to live back then, and how, and I think I would be much more appreciative also of everything that we have now. So that's what I would love. Benjamin Franklin.
Excellent. Benjamin Franklin, if you can get people to laugh, you're halfway to getting them to agree with you. And making people laugh is also quite a skill. We had, oh, I'm sorry, that means our live stream is nearly over. Nelson Mandela once said, I learned the courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. And that's it from episode 115 of the PhD live stream. Thanks to our guest, Rebecca Murray. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for great influence tonight. And next week, we have a speaker joining us talking about talking about celebrity makeup, but also about the insecurity. How can it ruin the beauty you were born with, and how to be courageous again? We are going to delve into that topic with Christina Flack. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day wherever you are, and be courageous. Thank you.